The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
Welcome to another episode of The Grip Show. So, with 2024 coming to a close, this is the first time we've done this for The Grip Show. We are doing basically a yearly wrap-up. So, we're going to kind of run down through big highlights, maybe some surprising moments, big wins, big lifts throughout the competitions of 2024. We're also going to get into different categories of, kind of like most improved lifter, rookie of the year, things of that nature, best athlete of the year. And all of us are going to have different picks on that subject, or we might have some of the same, we might have different ones. So it'll create an interesting discussion. So we do have a couple of categories where we're going to name, kind of lifters for the year in certain categories. And we're going to break down the competitions, what took place. And with me, no strangers to the sport at all, Captain Canada, Eric Roussin here, and the big general of the North, Jason Dingey, leader of Team Ohio. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks.
All right. So if we kind of start off the year, usually one of the biggest competitions that we start with is kind of the Arnold Classic. That first week of March, it's usually, not saying there aren't other competitions in the year that are big, but that's kind of our first big landmark when we get into the competition scene. And from the Arnold, I had a couple things written down here that were kind of notable. Essentially, we had Sarah Chapello winning the overall for that and had a good performance. Carl Meyersko winning the Arnold, which he's won several times, but I mean, he went ahead and kind of, did that again. I thought those were, just naming the overall top lifters of each, male, female categories. And then Eric, don't hate me on this one, but you've dominated, whether it's the 90 or 100 kilo class, maybe there's been a little bit of competition, but for the most part, you've been very dominant in those weight classes. But Ivan got you this year. So I thought that was pretty notable for him because it's the first time he actually, performed at that level, or someone finally got you, because for so long you were just gold. I mean, it was, I don't know how many years running. So that was a big moment, I thought, or a decent little turning point there. And that was really most of what I had written down for the Arnold. With you guys being there, other stuff maybe you could bring up or things you could think about.
Well, for me, this was the biggest Arnold's to date. I think Ricardo said there was 112 competitors, and it was the biggest Arnold's to date. And the two cool things this year, we were on, like, most of the divisions had some main stage time or big stage time, maybe not the main stage, but we were seen by hundreds, if not thousands of people walking by. So that was really, really cool. And especially for the women's division was super well attended. The most probably competitive women's class ever assembled up to that point. So really, really fun to be part of the big show and to be seen by so many people. Ivan sort of, I got a glimpse of what his capabilities were last year, 2023, where he tied me on the rolling handle. And I knew at that point it was just his back that was holding him back, but clearly that's what he worked on. So now that he beat me at that contest, it was close, but I figure he has more room to grow than I do. But I'm training hard, and we'll see what we can do in LA and at the Arnold's again this year. So I'm looking forward to it. But one of the moments that I'm sure Jason remembers is sort of the bad luck event that happened on the GFC, the grandfather clock lift, right? With the blood and the swapping out of the handles. Like, I feel like Jason may have gotten screwed on that. I don't know, Jason, do you want to talk about your view on how that happened?
Oh, I forgot all about that. Thanks.
Did you? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was, Dave got cut.
Right.
Get some blood on it. And so obviously they wanted to change the handle out.
Right.
And it felt pretty, I don't know. I should have tried to maybe chalk it or something. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about it. I just ran up there and grabbed a hold of it, but I should have said, hey, let me maybe give me a minute to re-chalk it, because that was the good one earlier, wasn't it?
Right. It was.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that on the third pin for a while, and then you guys, I don't know, somebody got up there. I think when your class was going, they're like, "Oh, this doesn't feel good anymore," and then you
Right.
changed it.
Right. Yeah, so and
So,
that's the
yeah,
importance of these friction lifts, right? That like any slight difference can make a huge difference. So, um, anyway, so that's one of the stories of the Arnolds that I remember, because I think, were you in second going into the final event?
I was third.
You were third. Okay.
Yeah. Carl was first, and then oh geez, I forget his name. I could see him.
Well, I know Luke. I know Luke climbed up after that last. Luke Reynolds climbed up.
Yeah, Luke and Dave
Right.
passed Cookie Monster Strongman. This is geez, I lived with him for a couple years now. What's
I know it. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Eric
his
Dawson.
name just escaped me.
Yeah, Eric Dawson. Yeah.
Eric Dawson.
Eric, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, Eric, yeah, he was just, I think, because we both lifted 200 on the axle, and I did 125 on the sax, and I think he did 127 and a half. Yeah,
Okay.
so he was second, I was third, and then I think it was Dave and Luke or something. Yeah, and then
Right.
and then they went, and yeah, and then Luke ended up getting second, and Dave third.
A couple of other stories that I'm just thinking about now is how Devin Lee surprised everyone and entered the 80 kg class.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think that caught the California guys by surprise. So Devin Lee won that, and broke some records for that weight class. And the other thing that I remember is the rare event that Tammy did not win, because Tammy wins almost everything, but Danielle Evenson got a few extra reps on the GFC medley. So that to me was a memorable highlight, I guess.
Yeah. And then from there, I guess if we're going down kind of chronologically, is there anything, I guess, in between that and the U.S. Nationals, Eric, that you would want to cover, or would U.S. Nationals kind of be next up there?
Yeah, U.S. Nationals and Canadian Nationals, I believe they were held the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that was probably like April or something this year?
April 6th, yeah.
Yep.
So maybe I can quickly give a run, talk about the Canadian Nationals, and then you can...
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Canadian Nationals were out in Calgary. The past few years, we've been moving east-west for the Canadian Nationals. So I held them in 23. Jason Steves held them this year. One of the things that was interesting is that there was 5 events in the contest, but the 5th event was a mystery event that he did not reveal. So he sort of gave hints, but we only found out when we got there that it was the sledge choke. Mm-hmm. And that made things a little interesting. There were 24 competitors, but which was a good turnout. But unfortunately, a lot of the guys I expected to see did not, for whatever reason, show up. So there was no Brad, there's no James Jeffers, there was no Mike Schimmel, or even Carter weren't there. I thought for sure they would be, or some of them would, because it was in the West Coast, but or western part of the country, but they weren't. So my main competition was Trey DeMarto, Big Tree. And we were close neck and neck throughout the whole contest. He was leading going into the sledge choke event. But then I got him on that very last event, probably from my arm wrestling background,
that rising strength, right? Your rising strength.
So it's a decent strength for me. And Trey hasn't trained that. Actually, the guy who beat us both on that particular event was Rob McMurrin. He's very good at hammers. So he beat both of us, but I ended up getting the overall win. So overall, it was a nice contest. I was just sort of expecting a few more top competitors to be there, at least for the heavyweights.
Yeah, and then if we get into, U.S. Nationals.
Yeah.
Will Giuliani hosted it this year, and did that was kind of different because for a while I think Jed was pretty much hosting them. So to see it kind of shift and go all the way out to the west for the U.S. guys was something a little different. They had a great turnout, but for the national champion was Jed Johnson, and for the women's was Helen Nguyen. So that was pretty much your overall winners for those two classes. I don't know. Well, none of us would have been there, right, for that
Yeah,
particular
I
competition.
saw some.
So
I saw some of the video though, and Paige
Yeah.
Elliott, who's a young lifter. I think she's may have even be a teenager. I'm not 100% sure on that, but she lifted basically body weight on the Saxon bar, if not more, in her first grip sport contest. So that I remember being fun to see. And then they have a few really monster thick bar guys like AJ Ruakatara. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And I think it's Mike Gentile. So both those guys had really good thick bar lifts. I think they probably beat, I can't say for sure, but I think they probably beat Jed on that event. But Jed being the well-rounded guy, he came out on top. So kudos to him once again.
And then I think that would probably kind of run us into the Super Series, Eric, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I would like
just schedule.
Well, I'd like to talk about the NAGS Championship, which was June 1st.
Oh, okay. That was before. Yes, that was right before. You're right. I'm sorry. So let's talk about the North Americans, and yes, that was huge, and that's gonna that has to be talked about, obviously.
So this event for me was the grip contest I'd put the most effort into in all my years of promoting. Because I say this is sort of like a 4 or 5 years in the making. I was planning on hosting NAGS back in 2020. And then COVID hit, and
we had to flatten the curve.
Yeah. So finally got to host the contest, and I can't be more pleased with how everything went. We were 35 of the very top guys in North America. No contest gets everyone, but I was very happy overall with the overall level of talent that was able to attend. And a 7-event contest, 2 days. I think it was nice. It was allowed people to show their strengths across many disciplines, and of course that monster medley at the end. A couple of things that I remember. Well, Jason had such a lead going into the final event that he just leisurely strolled through the medley. He wasn't running around like the rest of us. He knew he only needed a certain amount. And as soon as he got that number, I think he sort of, he could have done more had he wanted to.
No, that's pretty much full speed there, Eric. I don't know. I'm not built for those.
All right. Well, it looked like you were taking it easy. And I do remember Luke kicking out. Like Luke, he got the best result on the medley. He got 36 of 40. And, I expected a few people to get at least in the mid 30s, but he was the only one, and I think the closest after that was maybe 30, maybe 34. So those are some of the moments that really stick out to me from the contest. But I was just very happy with how I was able to sort of direct things, and everything was sort of according to schedule. So for me, from an organizational perspective, I was very happy by the attendance and how everything unfolded.
Yeah, that was an awesome competition, Eric, because I think at some point, I forget who it was, but maybe it was on Jed's channel. The live stream was running. So it was really fun to kind of tune in and just see, like you said, you can't get everybody every time, but the amount of people that you had show up and kind of, like you said, years in the making to kind of, bring that back. I was excited to watch it. I was mad that I missed it and wasn't there in person. But man, watching it and just seeing everybody go event from event was, one of the more entertaining things that I got to actually watch. I said, bringing it up on the TV and watching it happen was like, oh man, it just made me want to be there. And it was a very well ran competition. And Jason took the win. That's why he can put his North American belt up on top of his Christmas tree instead of a star, right? So Sarah, man, that was a good one.
And Sarah won the overalls for the women, and she had some incredible. She seems to break records every contest, but I remember her little bighorn lift was really, really high. I can't remember the number.
It was like in the 180s, maybe.
Yeah. So
I think
impressive stuff.
Then that would lead us into the Super Series, if I'm not mistaken, if we go kind of timeline wise.
Yeah.
We kind of briefly spoke about it before the show started. I want to say Carl lifted on the Saxon bar 314 for the 3-inch Saxon. He did 314, and that was kind of 10 taking back that record that Martins had done with 308 pounds prior at a previous event. So I think that was kind of a notable lift, obviously. Um, but as far as the Super Series goes, I can't really point out too many highlights that stand out in my mind or too many other lifts. I do know that Carl and Alexi were kind of at the same venue, so probably seeing both those guys going head to head at the same time, same venue, would have been fun to see. Or it was kind of fun to see some videos and clips from it. But as far as every weight class goes, men's and women's divisions, it's tough for me to really pick anything from the Super Series, being so spread out, so many lifters, multiple venues. Um, Other than going off a spreadsheet, Eric, and we've done a recap on it already, I don't know what else I could bring to the table off of the Super Series. If you guys have anything, feel free.
So that was the first contest to break the 300 barrier. I think across both stages there was 302 competitors, if I'm recalling correctly. So attendance was fantastic, and it's Alexi who won that overall, I believe. Eh?
I thought he beat Carl. I remember
he was ahead in the first stage, but I was looking to see if he did the second for some reason.
That could be.
For some reason, I thought I ended up in second overall.
I don't think Carl. I don't think Carl did the second stage, but I think Alexi did.
Oh, then he won, and
yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know why those results can't be found on Armlifting USA. That it seems like they were maybe removed in error. I don't know, because they used to be there.
Yeah, because at one point they were up, or they might be under like the Super Series tab somewhere, or maybe that got removed and they didn't do it to the total results. I'm not sure, but I couldn't find them when I went to look at it. But yeah.
And then I can't recall offhand, but I'm assuming Sarah won that too. I don't remember though. Do either of you know?
Yeah, assuming she participated, I would say she won. But yeah, I'd have to go back and watch my own recap. I don't even remember, So
yeah, there's no overall winner. He has a weight class, but
he does post the results overall, but there's no, I guess, official title or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should
kind of like the Arnold too. There's not an actual overall,
right?
It just
we can all do the math and figure out who the top person is. So.
Yeah, that's why, like, when I say like Sarah won the overall, I'm just saying that essentially she would have won. Whereas, like, if somebody maybe in the 80 kg class had outlifted her, I could say, hey, that person outlifted the higher weight classes. But yeah, if it's the heaviest weight and they lifted the most out of everybody, I tend just to use the term overall, even if it's not divided up that way. I might just kind of word it that way sometimes. So
I do want to make a note for any of our international listeners is that our focus is probably more on North American contests. So not to say that there aren't other major contests that happen. I know Australia had its first nationals. I don't know, in Finland and Scandinavia, they have contests all the time. So it's not that we're not aware. I think we're just better placed or positioned to talk about the ones that that we're talking about today.
And Eric, I did do some interviews for some of that as well. Like I had Luke Reynolds come on as the for Australians First Nationals. I did a kind of like a 20-some minute, 30-minute interview with him about winning the first nationals in Australia. So that was something. So yeah, off memory, because I had him on the show, I can remember that he won that event. So and don't get me wrong, when we get into some of these categories and picking lifters and talking about feats of strength, I do have a lot of international lifters on here as well. So don't lose hope if you're an international lifter. I might have you somewhere on my list. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah. What would be the next jump from there? That's kind of middle of the year, kind of leading into August for the competition schedule. And then we get fairly close to kind of King Kong, right? I mean, or maybe there's something else in there.
Yeah, Armlifting Worlds was right before King Kong.
Yeah, they almost stacked them right on top of each other, right? Yeah. Yep.
And that one, so that was at the Olympia once again in Las Vegas. And there is no overall category, but based on the math, Alexi would have won that one. Ahead of Carl and ahead of, there were some strong people there as well.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking about with Alexi over Carl. you know, instead of the Super Series, I think that was the event. I think I was confusing the results on those
Yeah.
a second ago. But yeah,
So
I got you.
Alexi is definitely in shape. With the numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but I know they were very impressive numbers for the Saxon and for the whatever the events were. I can't even recall offhand. And then a couple of things that I remember that stand out for me are the anvil lifts by first Ashley Munsey. She lifted like 172.5 on the anvil, which was by far the best for her weight class. And then of course Sarah, who got over 200
pounds.
Yeah, so I mean, that was crazy strong lifts. So those are some of my memories. And then I was very impressed by my teammate Corinne Lalonde, who she dieted down a bit. She won the 60 kg class and she won the Masters, which is an open weight. So at a body weight of about 130 pounds, that I thought, and for her age, I was very impressed by her. Jason, do you have any memories or any thoughts or feelings of that event, that contest?
Yeah, I will say the weights were different on the last event. Couldn't exactly compare.
Yeah.
Alexi,
right.
Yeah,
because
that's a
they
huge
did
thing.
They did 95 kilos and we did 100 on the Raptor.
Right.
But he's still, I mean, because I ended up winning, getting the most reps on that thing, which was a surprise going against Carl and Luke.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Jason, that's a great
so
point. Yeah, the weights of the pen were different. So yeah, it's hard to say somebody beat someone overall if they weren't on the same weight stack. So
right.
But
Alexi had the biggest Saxon bar. I think it was 317 or something. 315, right around.
Yeah. And that was for the 2-inch Saxon.
264 maybe on the anvil.
Yeah.
262 something, right around there, huh?
Yeah. Big
I think Luke Reynolds did 260, and I think he might have had the second highest lift, so Alexi might have done slightly above that.
Like I said, something, but
I don't have numbers in front of me, so if I'm off a bit,
he did really well. And then Alexi did a little bit more than him, another lift or something. I don't know, but
and Ohio boy Nate Phillips had a good contest. Winning worlds on his first time out. In the 90 kg class, so that's definitely another story from that contest.
Yeah, he did, because he came over to train with me once before, a couple weeks before the contest, and he had never, well, maybe a month, but he had never used the 2-inch Saxon bar.
Okay.
So he only got to I think 178 on mine that day. He tried it. He couldn't get anything above that. And he did. I remember he did a few singles with that. And then I let him borrow my 2x5 Napalm setup, the handles. So he trained on that. And then he put, I forget what he did in the contest, 210 maybe or something on that. But he added 20, 30 pounds or something in those few weeks to make a big.
Guys, just to clear up the numbers here. On that, for the 2-inch Saxon bar, Carl hit 310 and Alexi did 312. And then if we go to the Rogue Anvil, Alexi did 260 and Luke Reynolds was right behind with 253.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
What did Alexi do?
For which one?
For the weight you just said.
The Anvil was 260.
Yeah. 260, okay.
Yeah, Alexi did 260 for the highest lift, and Luke Reynolds was right behind him with 253.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed in my Saxon bar there. I was sure I would get at least 300. I don't know what the deal was. I even took all the chalk off of mine a couple weeks before and did 290 with no chalk on my bar. I was like, but things happen. I don't know. Right hand flew off, and that was it.
And that was that. And like I said, that's mostly probably the bigger lifts or bigger moments of worlds that at least come to my mind. Probably should have just left that that stat sheet up just in case there was something else. But yeah, yeah, because Nate took the 90 kg. He lifted 220 on the Rogue Anvil that day, which is pretty
Yeah.
big lift. Like I said, first
Yeah.
first competition, yeah, he pulled 220 on that. So that's pretty serious. And then, Eric, you won, and then I believe Andy Muncie took the 110 class there with
Yep.
pretty big lifts from both of you guys across the board there as well. So, and then we kind of discussed the super heavies already. But yeah, like I said, that was the Olympia, and then that would lead us into King Kong, like we just mentioned.
Yeah, King Kong. So that record turnout as well. I forget the number, 370, I think overall. So
373, I think.
Yeah,
total.
so I was very, very happy with that. The size of the women's class has doubled from the previous year, from 40 to 80. And I was pleasantly surprised to see a couple of rookies make the top 10 overall.
Mm-hmm.
The names that I have written down are Henry Mullet from Australia. So for your first King Kong, if you make top 10 overall on your first outing in your first year, that's big. And then the other guy from Austria, Christoph Streisnig, he's the guy who won my weight class. But
Yes.
this was, as far as I know, his first grip contest. And for him to crack the top 10.
I was going to say, Eric, another thing to add is he goes by Tiny out there with the Gods of Grip crew in the UK. Ross Boyle took third.
Well, yeah. This was his first King Kong. I wouldn't qualify him quite as a rookie, but yeah, he was third overall.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and a lot of these lifters, they have backgrounds, obviously,
Right.
but I was just saying from a King Kong debut perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And Aggie Saint Jacques, the young climber from here, she, that's where she broke the record for the Rolling Thunder pull-ups, and then she won her weight class in King Kong. So to do that in your first year is obviously really, really good.
Yeah, and there wasn't. It's tough for me to say. I mean, Sarah won the women's overall for the King Kong there.
Yep.
The Queen Kong, right? And I'd have to go back and double check on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Carter Colo definitely. I mean, he won, which was a huge thing, being the kind of lighter weight competitor and
lightest guy to ever win it overall. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a huge deal. So yeah, that's a very big performance by Carter, especially considering that I think that kind of takes away any doubt that his third place finish the year before was a fluke or
Right.
I know the events were roughly the same, but you always have to wonder, did somebody just have the best day of their life and a couple guys had an off day or
Right.
no? I mean, when you finish third one year and you come right back and win it the next year, it's safe to say that there's no fluke finish in that, or there's, what I mean? He knows what he's doing. He knows what's going on. And yeah, I mean, to be the lightest guy ever to win it is a huge statement. So I don't know if there was any other world records broken. I know W took the pinch block up, his previous record up a little bit higher. I'm sure Sarah Chapelot probably rebroke some of her old records. But other than that, yeah, King Kong for me, so many competitors, so much stuff going on. I'd have to look up stuff if I wanted to.
I know Jalen increased his pinch block record slightly, and Harry was very, very close as well. I mean, they both broke it, but just Jalen broke it more.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, I didn't know that it was that close though.
Oh yeah, it was very, very close.
Okay, yeah.
And then after that, I guess the next bigger contest would probably be Napalms Nightmare World Championship.
Yeah, and I can kind of cover some of that, Eric, if you want, or I could just give you my take on it. I mean, Ben Helms won. We were kind of wondering, hey, is this guy going to hit that year mark and fall out of the rankings because of inactivity, or is he going to come back? We all know how strong Ben is. And he actually came in at a light body weight, coming in under 105 kg, so he was under 231 pounds. And for a competition that's full of two-hand lifts across the board, 4 events, all two-hand lifts, big heavy lifts, to have a guy that's under 231 pounds win that, I think is a good display of strength overall because,
Absolutely.
a lot of times, and it depends on the pool of people, but, a lot of times the 120s or the 120 pluses, the super heavies will take that over. And Ben pulled numbers that could pretty much, hang with any weight class at a pretty good body weight there. So I would bring up, I think he definitely set some 105 kg records as far as, grip sport goes there with that competition. And one of the big ones also is Luke Raymond on the 2-inch pinch set a 105 kg weight class record of 322 pounds on the 2-inch pinch, which
Yeah.
is pretty ridiculous. So, yeah, Ben was able to put together the full package of all 4 lifts. And my personal opinion, obviously there's so many big grip guys out there. We could name more, but I'm talking about guys that have consistently competed or maybe done the competition in the past. I would say Jason himself or Alexei Tukalov might have been the only guys that have competed in that competition in the past that would have had a shot at the numbers Ben put up this year. And yeah, so that's really kind of the highlight of that. If we
Ben
just
would have beat me.
okay, you
I
know
coulda
more than me. Yeah.
hung with him, or maybe beat him on the pinch events, maybe both of them. But he would have been a good bit more than APR I've done on
Okay.
the thick bar events.
Also, Jason, just to mess around, right? I got to talk a little bit of shit and mess with Jed. We didn't get to mention it when me and Jed did our recap of the Napalm Nightmare, but Jed did not sweep the 120 kg class because he got outlifted on the 2-inch Napalm rolling handles by me. So I took the sweep away from Jed. So anyway, I don't like talking about myself much on the show, but I got to mess with Jed a little bit and talk some shit. So he told me when we did the recap, he's like, "Man, you beat me on an event. We didn't even talk about it." I'm like, "I don't give a shit, Jed, whatever. But now I'm going to talk shit to him and mess with him a little bit. So that's all.
Yeah, I didn't
But
realize that. I didn't realize that.
and I know, I mean, maybe Jed wasn't on his A game or something was weird for that event, whatever. But yeah, if we go by the score sheet, that's what happened. So, and we can move on, or if you guys have anything else with napalm stuff. But like I said, I had to mess with Jed a bit there. Yeah, I mean, and then that's really the last competition that I mean, just 2 weeks ago, essentially, is when that kind of wrapped up. So,
Yeah.
there's not really anything else that's going to happen, for the year that I would know. I mean,
right after that, small one.
Yeah. Well, because I had lifted on the 7th, but the actual results didn't release till the 14th, right? Or
Right. Yeah.
okay,
15th. Yeah.
or however it works. So yeah,
Yeah.
there was 2 competitions back to back there, but probably the last main competitions for the year, I would say, and yeah, nothing else really to speak on as far as competitions go.
But I would say this was a big story for the year is just the overall number of events was higher in 2024 than it was in any previous year. And the number of competitors continues to increase. So it's all signs indicate that the sport's going to keep growing, and 2025 should be even bigger and better contests.
Yeah. Did Amy Waddles? I believe Amy Waddles won the overall this year.
She won the overall
for the women's side.
Yep.
And I believe she set some records, maybe in the 2-inch napalm pinch.
I think you might be right.
I believe. Yeah. So yeah. I just wanted to add that in there. I know I got off on a tangent there with napalm, but with Amy pulled some big lifts, and I want to say Heather McDowell took one of those event wins too. So it wasn't like it was a clean sweep there on that side of the thing, competition things as well. So, but yeah, we can kind of branch into how things, how this year pretty much wrapped up being one of the best years for participation, big lifts, records being set. I think it was a good year for just grip strength sports in general across the board.
Yeah.
So that pretty much sums up the competition year. Now, do you guys want to kind of dive into these categories of how we're going to kind of place these lifters and maybe just discuss the categories, and then we can get into maybe who we select and why? And
Sure.
Eric, do you want to kind of take the three categories and maybe explain, or do you want me to kind of take that and then we can sort of just kind of freestyle from there?
Yeah. Well, maybe we can start. What do you want to start with? Rookie of the year? You want to start
Well,
with that?
I was just going to name what the categories were, if that's okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and name the three, and then we'll.
Okay. So essentially, the three categories that we all are, we're going to kind of give our opinion. And like I said, for everybody listening, this is just our opinion. And it might change in the moment as other guys name people too. We might be like, oh, I forgot about so and so. So none of this is set in stone. None of this is like, the final say of anything. It's just like the rankings that Eric does or anything. It's just the opinion and what we kind of have down at this moment. But we are going to list our opinions of rookie lifter of the year for men and women. Yeah, all these categories will have a men and a women's lifter. Rookie of the year, basically the best performer, best athlete of the year, who basically just was the best athlete in the sport for this year, and most improved lifter. So maybe somebody that kind of started off somewhere but then made some huge gains throughout the year. So we basically have rookie of the year, athlete of the year, and most improved lifter of the year. And does anybody want to start with their selections? And or what topic? You want to start with rookie of the year?
Yeah, let's do rookie. I'll
Okay.
just let everyone know that. So for me, I tried to be eligible for these categories. For me,
Mhm.
was I was looking for people who competed in some of the contests we talked about. If you're just doing smaller contests, it's not. I feel we don't get the same type of information. And the more of these bigger contests that you've done, the better. The more I feel I can substantiate my picks, right? So no one does all the contests, but if you competed in several of these, it at least increase your chance of being nominated for my picks. But for rookie of the year, I just want to mention that I was actually looking at people who competed, started in 2024. So I was being pretty strict.
Me too, Eric. I kind of put a year timeline on it. If it was
Yeah,
somebody that did like last year's King Kong, I didn't count them because
Right,
they're not
so
really a rookie anymore.
Right. And
Yeah.
might not be perfect, but it's based on what I know, right? So
Mhm.
so for I don't know, you're not gonna like me because I didn't narrow it down. I have like two names for most of these guys.
Hey, that's fine. That could drive some discussion, right?
Yeah. If I'm thinking of the men for rookie of the year, the two names that came up that were sort of the top for me were Australia's Henry Mullet and Austria's Christoph Streisnig. As far as I know, their first grip contests were this year.
Mhm.
Both got top 10 finishes at top 10 overall finishes at King Kong. Christoph actually won his class. I know Henry had a great showing at some of the Australian contests as well. There are many people who have been competing a little longer. Had this been a 2-year, I think it would have had a lot more names. But those were the two names that I came up with for male rookie of the year. How about you guys?
Jason, you go. I'll go last on this one.
I'm going to pick Nate Phillips.
Okay, that's
He's
solid. Yeah.
deserving. He didn't start. I think his first contest was a Super Series, the first stage, and he did well in that. And then obviously he did really well at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a solid choice. Jason, do you have anything else to add there before I get to rambling?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Eric, I like how you threw Christoph Streisnig in there. That's a good one. He was not on my list though. One that would be a possible argument that someone could make, but it's still not going to be my final choice, is Ben Galper. Ben Galper, really, this was his first year heavily competing. He did a lot for body weight. He pulled some of, weight class records. He was up there, competing with guys, 2, 3 weight classes above him in a lot of lifts. And I think that there could be an argument made there that Ben Galper had a very good, rookie season, so to speak, as far as grip goes. I went with Henry Mullet just because, although maybe not as many competitions to pull from, I do believe the scale at which he was lifting and the level of potential and what he's done I just think it has a bigger reach across the board, so I would lean towards Henry Mollett for Rookie of the Year because guys come out of nowhere and break Andrew's axle record, something that's been, Andrew Derniat's had that record for how long, and Henry Mollett's just getting started and he breaks it. That's a big deal. So I just think that level of overall horsepower and just knowing that untapped potential, for me, Henry Mollett was my choice for the men's Rookie of the Year.
I thought
Yeah,
Ben
all good names.
started. I didn't think Ben was started this year. I thought he did. I was thinking he's been into it for a couple of years.
Yeah, I also thought he started last year, but I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe he
Yeah, I
did.
could
I'd
be
have to go
wrong.
back and
I thought
check.
he did.
Yeah, it's pretty tough for me. Like I said, I tried to draw that mark at just all of 2024. Anybody
Right.
that competed prior to this year, I wasn't counting. But yeah, I only mentioned him because I wasn't really sure of the start date. But most of the stuff I remember seeing, we're in December.
Yeah.
I don't know that I remember seeing too many competitions, 13 months or before from him. I just don't remember it,
Right.
But I could be wrong. But yeah. That was the only reason I kind of threw him in there as an honorable mention or, as a possible choice for that. But I would still, like I said, go towards Henry Mollett just because of, I don't know, just that overall strength and just like I said, kind of the scale of what's possible.
Right.
I think that, a lifter like that doesn't come along very often, and it's exciting to see.
How about for the women for Rookie of the Year?
I can start off on this since I just went last, right?
Sure.
We'll just reverse the order. That's fine. I went with Helen Nguyen, and I thought her taking the win at nationals for women, and I thought her winning worlds, for her weight class, and I just thought, to see her compete on the arm lifting side and the GSI side, perform well in a variety of different events, kind of just starting off. I went with Helen. That was my pick.
Did Helen win Worlds, or what? I thought it may have been Ashley who won Worlds.
Oh, am I messed up? Am I a fool? I could totally be wrong.
I thought I saw the spreadsheet that it was Ashley, but they were both very close. I might be wrong.
I'm sorry. Let me double check, Eric, before I look like a fool. It's too late. It's already been recording. But
how about you, Jason?
Real quick.
I was going to pick Heather McDowell.
Good pick.
Now, was this her first year? I'm not sure. I thought it was.
I think it is for grip. Yeah.
Unless I missed. Because obviously, she won her class at the Olympia, right?
Yeah, and she was second behind Amy, I think, in Napalms.
Yeah, and she did well in the super series. So.
Yeah,
Eric, you're right. Ashley Muncie did win. Helen took second, but okay, so I was off on that placement. There was a 5-point difference between first and second place between those two. But with Ashley being as good as she is and how we mentioned how strong she is, for Helen to be in competition with Ashley in her first year, still a big statement. But yeah, you are right. So yeah, apologize for that.
But
messed that one up.
All this to say is that so she's one of the two I had picked as well. So Helen was one of my two picks for Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. Fantastic first year. Been competitive in every contest, either winning or right there. And the other one, she's competed in only 2 or 3 contests so far, but at her weight, pound for pound, Aggie St. Jacques, crushed. Like she won King Kong, at least her weight class, by a decent margin. And hers just the potential. The potential. I can't wait to see her compete more next year. But I thought those were my 2 picks for Rookie of the Year on the women's side. Heather McDowell was another great pick, though. Yeah. All the names we're mentioning here have fantastic years.
There's a lot of people you could go with.
Yeah. You want to do most improved?
It's hard to narrow it down.
Yeah. We can jump in with most improved. Anybody want to take this one first?
So this was another one that there's a lot of names. Do you want to go first, Jason?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going to pick Sarah Ott.
Sarah Ott, yeah.
From West Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't think she had done any contests for a couple years, maybe. She did the first contest I did when Mike Saffel held the first East Ohio. She was there. And then she did a couple more things. And I think she took a couple years off from grip anyway. She might have been doing the strong woman. But she lost weight and she ended up I think third place in the 60 kilo at the Olympia. And she did well in the Super Series. So that's who I'm picking.
All right, Eric, what are you thinking?
So I had trouble with the women's for most improved.
It was tough, but don't steal my pick. That's all I'm saying. We don't know who's saying what. Don't do it. Don't steal mine.
Just based on, I don't know that her. Well, I know her numbers improved, but I think it's because in conjunction with dropping a weight class, Corinne Lalonde has had a really good year. She only started in 2023, but 2024, her numbers went up as far as I know, basically everything. And even going down a weight class. So she was my selection for Ricky, most improved on the women's side.
Okay. And for me, Eric, this was also a tough one because, like I said, we're talking most improved. So that timeline kind of opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of see, where someone started, where they're at now, or, kind of track that a little bit. So from kind of going through and doing my research the best I could, I thought that Kathy Facey had made some pretty good progress. Based on where some of her numbers were before, where she's been in relation to other lifters. I thought that Kathy made some pretty good progress, so I selected her for most improved.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought of her also.
Yeah.
All right, to the men's most improved. I might be out there a little bit on this one. I think it's a good choice, but I mean, it might be one that's a little bit maybe people aren't expecting it from me.
I got one.
Go for it,
Okay.
Jason.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Chad Strange.
He's on my list as well. He was on my list as well.
Okay, yeah.
Finished the year off
Won
strong.
2 contests here this year. Beat Jed and then won another contest.
All while dropping weight and coming back from a bicep injury.
Yeah, so I thought he's very impressive.
Yeah.
He was on my list as well. Another guy who I feel in the latter half of the year is Derek Hudson. Derek Hudson has been continually improving, and I feel like the last couple of contests, enough that I've noticed an improvement. Another name I had was Trey DeMarto.
Yes. Good one.
He had a fantastic year. And if you look just at his King Kong standings over the past 3 years, they're huge jumps. So he's another guy that came to mind. How about you, Zach?
All right. I know we just mentioned it earlier where we were talking about how we're kind of sticking to North America because we're just more familiar with it and stuff like that. I'm going overseas. I haven't kept up with necessarily the competition results fully on every single thing. I'm adding a little bit of the training footage that I've seen and stuff like that into this as well. I'm picking Oliver Dilley from the UK because I have watched Oliver Dilley go from, I don't want to be wrong with this timeline, but, essentially going from maybe struggling with pinching 2 blues, 2 20 kg plates to, recently just pinching 2 reds. So, you have a 255 pound, plate pinch. That's a world-class feat of strength. He's, hanging with the inch dumbbell. I'm just seeing him pull off a lot of stuff. And I know the Gods of Grip guys have, their kind of competition circuit up and running over there. Mm-hmm. I don't know every single spreadsheet, every single result, but every time I've seen Oliver Dilley's name, he's up there with the best of the best over there. He's upping all of his numbers. And even on the feet side of things, he's just pulling off world-class feats. And that's not how his year started. You could see that progression, as he kind of upped his game. So, I picked Oliver Dilley for that. There's a lot of other honorable mentions that were right there, but I just, the level of stuff he's pulled off.
And
and how much he's worked towards it. Yeah.
Another name that I strongly considered was, I mean, if you look back, Jalen, if I think of Jalen Worley from Heavy Hands 2023, September 23.
Yes.
Now, I mean, he's had an impressive run and seems to keep getting stronger and stronger. So he's definitely another guy.
Absolutely.
For most improved. Yeah.
And we just going for like basically top athlete of the year.
Yeah, top athlete of the year.
Okay, this is a big one. I don't know. For me, this one was actually easier for me to select than the other two categories we just did, in my opinion. Rookie of the year was kind of tough. Most improved, it's hard to kind of measure. Athletes of the year for the men and women, I felt pretty comfortable picking these two. You guys want me to lead in with this?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Okay. For the women, I went with Sarah Chapelleau. As we mentioned, she is super active, always doing competitions, breaking her own records, always winning the overall, outlifting pretty much everybody. Very rare that anybody gets an event over her. And with her driving her own numbers up, constantly winning competitions, any format of competition, making the travel, the time, it would be very hard for somebody to say that Sarah Chapelleau is not the women's athlete of the year when it comes to arm lifting, grip sport, or anything grip strength related. My next pick for the men's would be Jason. I select Jason because he won the North Americans. Jason, did you take second or did you win your weight in the Super Series? Can you remember?
I won the Masters, and then I was second to
but
either Carl or
yeah.
Alexi, whoever.
And I understand that maybe Carl and Alexi have got you in certain competitions, or you didn't win the Arnold or that stuff. But when it comes down to it, you are one of the most active men's competitors across multiple rule sets over super wide range. I mean, if you get put in a medley, if you get put on the axle, you don't really have a weakness. And the fact that you put yourself out there so much, all these different formats, all these different high level people, one hand lifts, two hand lifts. Like I said, it's really your level of performance, but also the level of activity. It's not like you're doing 2 or 3 competitions a year. You're out here doing 10 to 12 competitions a year, and you're always at the top. You're always in the discussion. So for me, that level of activity and performance, I went with you, Jason. So yeah, those were my two for athletes.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, yeah, I don't know about that, but thank you. I'll take it.
And Zach, although I have to say, you can't see my paper, but Jason was also my pick. For many of the same reasons. Now, for me, it wasn't as easy as I had a very hard time figuring this out because it's not, you'd argue for different reasons, different factors, but for many of the same factors you've just listed, I have Jason at the very top for 2024. And for the women, the only one that you can argue on the same footing is Tammy. I mean,
yes.
Tammy and Sarah go to every contest and they win every time. But because Sarah is in the overall and she gets the highest numbers, I give the nod to Sarah as well. Yeah, phenomenal years, 2024. So congrats, Jason, for getting my pick and Zach's pick. So
I'm surprised. Thank you. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I said we didn't plan it or nothing, and I know there could be definitely an argument for other people over Jason. I understand that, but if that person, they may be stronger than Jason in a lot of events, but if they've only done 2 to 3 competitions or they've done limited formats,
right?
I have to kind of lean towards the more active person that's doing more stuff because, I got if you show up and do the work, then you're going to get the credit. If you're sometimes showing up, sometimes not, regardless of level, it's like I can't grant credit on things that don't happen. Even if they could happen, it's what really happened. So I just think that activity was the big push for me. Jason, who you got?
So Jason, did you pick yourself?
Yes.
Of course.
No, I'm going to cheat and pick two for the men, Carl and Alexi.
Yeah. Good,
'Cause
solid
I think
picks. Yeah.
they're both right there. With Alexi, he would have been the top at the Olympia. So yeah, I just picked both of those guys. And then for the women, I'm going to go with Tammy.
You're going to go with Tammy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tammy. I mean, it's obvious, they're both
right.
Same thing, but yeah, I'll pick Tammy for that.
Yeah, I hope in 2025 we'll see Carl and Alexi, do a bit more of the, either King Kong or something other than the Arnolds and the big armlifting events. If they did a bit more of the grip sport, and they're, this grip sport contest, there are more and more across the nation. So hopefully.
Eric, real fast, can I just do could I just kind of make another rundown here of maybe some people that were, because I said these categories are very limited. If somebody's competing longer than a year, they're not a rookie. If
Yep.
they've always been if they've always been a stud, they're not necessarily going to be the most improved because they were already at a high level.
Right.
Stuff like that. If they didn't compete with the Carls and Alexis, then they're not in the discussion for a top lifter. So, but I would like to make mention of maybe people to sort of keep an eye on. We could name it, maybe like rising stars, maybe people that were on the cusp of some of these categories, or maybe they didn't quite line up in these categories, but I still think they need a mention because they had a really solid year.
Sure.
So I'm just going to go down a list, kind of read some names pretty quick. But I thought there was a lot of good stuff happening in the UK. Tom Lymouth from Gods of Grip had a very good King Kong performance. It was nice to see their whole venue really kind of brought a good, overall King Kong performance. So Tom, I know that I don't think Patty Haynes did the King Kong, but Patty Haynes is another lifter that kind of has that strongman background that's been, getting into grip, and I think we'll probably be seeing a little bit more of him.
Yep.
Maybe doesn't fit some of these categories per se, but he's right there. I had Ben Galper, as another kind of like, newer lifter, but, obviously maybe if we extend that year mark, for the whole rookie thing, whatever. But yeah, like Ben Galper, Chaz Strange, just having a killer year. Carter Colo, like I said, I'd love to put Carter in some of these categories, but it's really like one competition, and it's hard to put guys like Carter or Yvonne in the mix of like an overall top lifter when you do one competition a year. But they are so good at what they do. You mentioned Big Tree Strongman, Trey. Trey was one of my picks right there for that rookie of the year as well. I mean, the guy comes into the sport. He's going head to head with you, Eric. You've been doing this for so long at such a high level. You guys have been pushing each other. So Trey was one of my picks. Jalen Worley, W was, right there, making a lot of improvements, doing big stuff. Heather McDowell, Eric, some of these people you named, Corinne Lalonde, Aggie St. Jacques, Tim Connors, Daniel Evanson. And from the Masters side of things, Adam Cohen really put up some big numbers for some of the Masters lifts this year. And I thought Adam Cohen did a really nice job. So although some of these people might not have fell into those categories we named, I thought some of these people were worth a mention and, had solid years that were worth noting. But that's all I wanted to add there. It's impossible to pick everybody, but
I'll add to that list. I'll add Will Reed. Also had an amazing. He had an amazing year.
Yeah, really did. Yeah,
he won.
I almost had him for most improved because he really did have like a. I've just seen his lifts kind of really progress. He's been chipping away for last couple of years. I've just been seeing a good progression. So yeah, good pick.
Yeah. And shout out to all the new promoters. There's been a lot of new promoters this year. So in Canada, most provinces now have grip contests, which is, is very new, but I find it so exciting to see all the people who are now starting to host contests. And that's the best way to grow the sport is more opportunity to compete. So I'm really excited about that. All
right. Anything else in regards to the lifters, maybe the competition thing, maybe other people to keep an eye on that come to mind that we didn't mention through the picks? And if anybody doesn't have anything to add there, then
I would say I would say keep keep an eye out on Team Ottawa and Team Ohio, I believe, as well. We're both poised for continued growth. We're both, I would say, two of the best, centers for grip in North America. So that's what people should look out for. More stars from our areas.
maybe we'll do a super match.
Yeah.
Just pick the best person in each weight class and just do team versus team.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're kind of close too. I mean, in some fashion, So yeah. I don't know, maybe because Chaz and Jed and them, Team Pennsylvania, they like to they like to talk shit on Ohio. So yeah, we've always talked about doing like we've always talked about Pennsylvania and Ohio. Yeah,
so they're all talk.
If those guys in Pennsylvania want it, or if Team Ottawa wants it, Team Ohio we might rally up and meet up sometime. So I think it would be fun. Yeah. Other stuff I could mention, guys, that doesn't necessarily fall in line with competition lifts. There's always feats of strength. It's a huge part of grip history. It's a huge part of our sport. We see it in medleys. A lot of the implements that people lift on loading pins are to mimic these classic feats of strength. So anytime we kind of see different milestones reached by people, I would like to kind of highlight those as well. If you guys have any to add, feel free. I'm just going to kind of read down my list and maybe do some brief explanations of them. But yeah, I mentioned Oliver Dilly having a really good year. I mean, him doing 255-pound plate pinch. There's not many people in the world that can say they've done that. That is a huge lift. Hanging with the inch dumbbell, another hard thing to do.
He's a lighter guy. What is he, 83 kg?
No. Oliver Dilly's like he's a 105 guy.
Oh, he's a 105. Okay.
He's a 105. Yeah.
Okay.
And then he did a lift that Jason and Ben Helms are the only two other guys I've seen do is pinching 4 blues. So 4 20 kg or 4 45-pound plates in a 2-hand pinch. He pulled that off. And I've only seen Ben Helms and Jason Dingey pull that lift off. So I know there may be more that can do
Sam
it.
Sam Salome did that.
Okay. Well, I hadn't seen
Thomas Larson.
Okay. Well, Thomas is a stud.
When I posted that a week or two ago, whenever I did it, Jed said something to Thomas. He did it.
Yeah.
I think at Paul Knight's house years ago. And those guys over in England did it with, I think they both, Oliver and Sam, I think, did it with the kilo plates.
Yeah. So you're going to have like a 4-pound difference or something.
So, I mean, what is it, 4 pounds more?
Yeah.
Here, so.
But yeah, still, even if we add those extra guys in, we're still talking less than 10 people that I can say that have done it. So it's just a wild feat of strength that I would give a lot of credit to. We made mention of Christoph Streisnig having a 10th place King Kong finish, but one of the things that caught my eye this year with him was picking up a Hall dumbbell, 85 kg. I know that comes out to like 187, but like the one I have is like 191. Tim Butler's is like 190, so they can run heavy. So very likely that this dude picked up 187 to 190 pound dumbbell, dead strict level, and did a hang with that dumbbell. Ridiculous. As somebody who's done a hang with the inch dumbbell, I mean, that dude being, about 205 pounds or less, or maybe even under 200 pounds.
Yeah.
To pick up a bell that's almost your body weight and hang with it, freakish level of strength. So I have to name that feat. That stood out to me.
Yeah,
I was like,
I saw that.
I was like, who is this guy? And then we see him in King Kong, and I'm like, oh, that's who he is. I connected the dots. 2 other guys that had really good years I'm going to get into. Jalen Worley, so W, grip, as a lot of people will know. Pinch 255s. So once again, the plate pinch. And the 2 biggest things other than that he pulled off, I think obviously the Shaw blob is one that just stands out as it's named after Brian Shaw because Brian's the only one that's lifted it. And this year, Jalen was able to pick up that half of a 150 legacy blob. So him picking up the Shaw blob was a big milestone, him being the second guy to ever do it. And Brian Shaw being the guy that led the way for that. So you can't do feats of the year and not talk about somebody picking up the Shaw blob. I do believe he also did a clean with the Blobfather, which is a Legacy 140. I believe he successfully pulled that lift off. I know he had showed some close attempts. I believe he pulled it off. If for any reason I'm wrong on that and he didn't do the full lift, I'm sorry. People can correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure he cleaned the Blobfather as well. But yeah, I thought the progress he made on blobs and that milestone of the Shaw blob specifically was amazing feat of strength. And Luke Raymond is one of the most underrated guys in all of grip and always has been. I will stand by that. Luke has done some great things in competition, great things in feats of strength. I think that Luke slightly gets overshadowed because he had to compete against Jed head to head all these years. And I think that if maybe Jed wasn't around, people might talk about Luke a little bit more. But Luke is doing, 255s plate pinch again, but with weight added because he's adding magnets to it and stuff. That's just super hard to do. And I don't even care if the plates have good texture. It's over 110 pounds in a single hand pinch. Like, and for Luke, another big milestone was the old school deep dish York plates. Luke successfully pulled that lift off. That's a classic feat of strength. Richard Soren did it. Jed, a lot of these guys, it's a small list of guys who've pinched those deep dish York plates. And Luke did that this year. And Luke is not a guy with notoriously big hands, relatively pretty normal hands. So to pinch deep dish plates like that, major feat of strength. Last one on my list is hopefully I don't mess the name up, is Ben Aquilina, cleaning and pressing the inch dumbbell in the 230-pound range. So Benny Boy lifts, one of Tim Butler's buddies out there in New Jersey, right? Ben Aquilina yanked the inch dumbbell up in a high pull fashion, basically rested it on his neck, and then landed the press from there. Anytime somebody's going to clean and press the inch dumbbell, especially when they just muscle it like that, pure raw power, amazing feat of strength, and has to be mentioned. So now I will shut up, and if any of those sparked ideas for you guys, feel free to name them. I'm sure I left plenty of feats of strength out. If I didn't mention something you did and you felt like it was on level with these, I apologize. Write them in the comments. Anybody that's listening, add your top feats of the year in the comments, or someone you saw do something. Put it in the comments so we're aware of it. But that was some extra things I wanted to note that happened outside of competition.
I pay much more attention to contests results than the feats, but I have to imagine that Tim Butler did something that was, I see so many of his feats that I'm assuming some of them were either unique or extremely impressive for let alone any body weight, his body weight. So I don't know if you have any particular Tim feats that stick out, Zach, but
he might have done some facelifts with blobs, certain facelifts or curling, certain things, maybe something that he hadn't done or he progressed on a little bit. It's hard for me to say without going back and directly watching the videos or maybe talking to Tim about it. But yeah,
tons of combo feats as well, right? So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, Tim's always kind of mixing stuff up. He's one of the best grip feet guys there's ever been.
Yeah, I think he did a couple new things this year that hadn't been done before with like facelifts and stuff.
Yeah, whether it be curling them or cleaning them by the
I'm
face.
not sure exactly, but it just they're just crazy to me. I don't even try that stuff, so I don't even know what's going on with
it. Yeah. Tim also had to kind of battle back from some injuries this year as well. So there were some gaps in time where maybe he wasn't up to par with his own standard that he sets for himself. But yeah, he was still, like Jason mentioned, I think he was doing feats that were new to him and probably new to the grip world entirely, because he's one of those guys kind of pushing boundaries in different lanes that not a lot of people can do, or they're just not willing to pursue. And he's the guy that can pull some of that stuff off. So yeah, Tim, I'm sure we left some stuff out. He could fill us in on that maybe. Other than that, I'm not too sure of anything else.
Well, I mean, I'd count the 22 rep Rolling Thunder pull up by Aggie.
For Aggie, yeah.
That's a pretty amazing feat. So that was special. Like the first time I saw her do reps was at her very first contest. We had Rolling Thunders hanging. We had set them up just for people who wanted to try, and I saw her just doing 16, 17 reps without even chin-ups. I'm like, how many can you do? She's I I can do a lot. I said, well, let's make it official next time, and then we made it official at King Kong. So that was impressive to see.
No, that is a feat of grip strength. I'm trying to think of anything else, and I'm sorry because a lot of what I just named was all male lifters, but I typically see, for one, there's more male lifters in the sport, so there's a larger population to pull from, and we talk about the numbers increasing for women's lifters in competition.
Right.
But I don't know that on the feats of strength side of thing, I haven't really seen too many of the women's lifters, even though they are amazing in competition. I don't see them really messing around with feats of strength. I don't see them plate pinching. I don't see them doing other things. Occasionally, someone will pick up a hub, like whatever.
Yeah, no, you're right. We don't see too much of that. You're right. Yeah.
So I don't want it to seem that I'm only paying attention and giving credit to feats of strength for the men, but I don't see a lot of the female competitors, putting attention in that area. I would love to bring up,
right,
some first all-time, woman to do this or first woman to pinch this or lift that. But I don't see those videos in my feed, and I follow pretty closely, and I'm usually in tune with a lot of what's going on. I just don't see it, or else I would report on it. So,
right.
Yeah. Yep. Anything else to add? We've covered the year pretty good. Anything kind of to wrap up with, maybe?
Well, my buddy over there in Sweden, Kim Johansson, you remember his axle lift?
Yes. Yeah. What do you do?
Like 587?
Okay. I was going to say 580, but yeah. Yeah, I knew it was up there.
It was right. It was over 580, I remember. And it was no doubter.
And I want to say it was on like an actual 2-inch axle too, not to knock the Rogue axle and the 1.9-inch, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think it was on like an Iron Mind axle or a true 2-inch axle as well. So for what that's worth.
Yeah, he may have made that one. I forget if he told me. He may have machined a 2-inch, but it was either, it was a 2-inch anyway, but it was, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, Kim is one of those guys that just, God, I remember watching him and Carl go back and forth on the Rogue axle, and both of them pulled like 5 or 6 lifts apiece over 500 pounds back and forth. So I would love to see Kim jump back in some competitions and mix it up with those guys. I would have loved to seen him at the Shaw Classic in the dumbbell and blob medley that they did this year. That would have been interesting to see him on the dumbbells because his thick bar is off the charts. Especially if you're repping out inch dumbbells or something. Yeah, Kim Johansson is he's just a monster. It's just I think maybe he was into more strongman and doing different style competitions, and maybe some of the grip competitions didn't draw him in this year.
Yeah, and then he had I think he had some surgery on a foot. He's had a foot issue, I think, for a long time, and so I think he's just coming back from that.
Okay. Yeah, I believe I saw something about that
the other day, and he was saying something about, I don't know, but yeah, his focus is still strong, man. I think he still, wants to win like Sweden's strongest man, and and we can't forget about our buddy Big Smoth.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
After King Kong finally lifted the inch dumbbell.
Oh, good for him.
Multiple times. I think he got it 3-4 times he did it.
Yeah. Because I brought it there specifically because I'm like, the guys outlifted me in rolling handles in competition. And if anybody's familiar with me lifting inch dumbbells, I'm decent at it. So I was like, Mike, there's no way you're outlifting me on rolling handles and you can't pick this thing up. I'm tired of you telling me you can't. I brought my inch dumbbell there to King Kong, and I'm like, I'm not leaving until you pick this thing up. And yeah, he went off and, pulled some nice solid reps with it and knocked that off his bucket list. So although we're naming some of these feats that shoot to the moon, it is nice when people kind of have their breakthrough moment or their first ever, time, hitting a world-class feat of strength or, kind of that gold standard in a certain area. So yeah, nice job to Mike on that one.
Basically the strongest thick bar lifter in the world not to be able to lift the inch dumbbell. I don't know anyone who's lifted over 400 pounds on the axle that hasn't been able to lift an inch dumbbell besides Mike.
Yeah. And on some of those Raptors, he was lifting like 200 pounds. Like on a 2-inch Raptor, he's like over 200 pounds. And I'm like, how are you not picking up the inch dumbbell? He's like, I don't know, I can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Well,
not buying
yeah,
that.
I don't know, but I don't know if there's something about mine he didn't like, either of mine, but he had
Probably because it was
the
just
thing.
painted blue. He
Yours,
didn't like that blue paint,
not like
man.
yours is light or anything either, but I don't know. Maybe it was
No, it's
the
not.
shame. Finally, we just shamed him into lifting it, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
If I could throw in another question for you guys, what
Okay,
was
yeah.
your favorite contest experience of the year? So Zach, out of the contests you competed in, the ones you attended, was there any in particular that you preferred, and if so, why? What stood out for you?
Eric, I honestly had kind of an off year competing because I didn't really pick up until the second half of the year.
Right.
I was also going through a move, moving from North Carolina back to Ohio.
Right.
I personally would say my favorite contest experience for me this year, because I didn't really do any of the big expos or anything like I had in years past.
Yeah.
I just wasn't able to make it, wasn't in the works. So for me, moving back to my home state of Ohio, going to Jason's King Kong and pulling all 4 PRs on those lifts was a big, well, kind of redeemed my year, so to speak. I wasn't
Okay.
having a good year in competition. I wasn't looking forward to a lot of competitions, and that sort of that was probably my favorite overall competition. I will bring up one more moment. The Greenville Grab that Zach Stanowitz hosted down in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Jake Fuller was just kicking my ass in every event, and that's just he's smashing me on grippers. I think we might have tied, or he might have had more in the tank. Maybe we tied on the scorecards, but I knew he had more in the tank on Saxon. He just ran out of attempts, and he smashed me on Little Bighorn. But I knew there was just not very often, you run into an inch dumbbell medley or like an inch dumbbell ladder where you get to
Yeah.
rep it out in a time limit. So I loved that event because I'm a fan of lifting the inch dumbbell and that style of more of bringing a feat to a contest and not just loading pin or barbell stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, knowing that I was kind of getting my ass kicked by Jake, I was like, okay, he's beat me 3 out of 4 events. We're going into the inch dumbbell. And I'm like, I'm the guy that can lift some inch dumbbells, so I'm not losing this one. And yeah, that was a cool one for me because it was the first time I got to do an event like that. And I felt like everybody in attendance really enjoyed it because Jake, I think, hit like 7 reps in the time we had 2 minutes, but you had to lift like 100-pound dumbbell, a 125, move on to a 150, and then rep out the inch replica. So
Right.
you're burning some of that minute in those first
Yeah.
couple lifts just moving around. Jake hit, and this is also the 4th event, so you've already maxed out 3 lifts prior. But yeah, Jake was up big. He was going to win anyway, so it was more like, hey, let me try to get this moral victory. And the crowd and the other lifters had a good energy, and everybody kind of went wild when Jake hit 7 reps in that timeline, including his 3 reps of the smaller bells.
Mhm.
And when I just kept popping off reps and ended up hitting 9 and finally won that event, I was like, oh man, that was a cool moment this year for me. So the
Cool.
Greenville Grab, having that event and being able to kind of pull that one off after, kind of getting beat the first 3 events, was a cool moment. And then going to Jason's back home in Ohio, getting settled in and pulling all those PRs was probably my 2 favorite moments of the year.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what I go with.
How about you, Jason?
Oh, the North Americans contest. Yeah, by far was the best one.
Yeah. Because aside is that just because you won the overall, or
No, everything was good
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Meeting some new people and seeing a lot of old faces, old friends there, and yeah, I like the 2-day. Oh, did that right after I started. We had that Andrew Durney had hosted at Living Legends in 2019,
right?
and yeah, you were there that 2-day, and that was my other favorite contest I've ever gone to.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that 2-day. It was neat. Good venue. I mean, good trip out there, and going to dinner and everything with everybody. That's always a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, everything was good about it. I did not expect to win. I didn't think, I'm always going into like, well, Eric's going to beat me on the napalm lift. Jed and Jalen are going to beat me on the silver bullet. I don't know what I'm going to win. I was the wrist wrench. I thought, I'm going to do bad on that. That's the
But because you're so well balanced, though, even if you drop an event here or there, you're gonna, because you were probably top 3 in everything, or probably I can't remember.
Yeah, I only won one event. I won
Right.
the Napalms,
Right.
and then I tied for first on. I think I tied for first on the inch pinch.
Okay.
Maybe I thought I tied for, and then a tie for second was my worst.
Okay.
I think I got a couple of second places by myself, and then got tied for second on a couple.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's also mine. I'm not saying that because it was my contest I ran, but I was just very, very pleased with that whole weekend, and exactly the 2 days, and it really felt like a nice get together, right? We're all sort of among friends, and yeah, it didn't hurt to win my class and to finish second to the general. I was very, very happy to finish where I did in that contest. But
yeah, you even gave out money.
Yeah, that's true. I had money. Yeah, I had
nice.
Yeah.
Through it with 6 places, everybody got something. That was nice.
Yeah.
Great trophies.
Yeah. So
everything about it was good.
That's yeah. I'll have very good memories of that contest.
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret of the year, is not making it to that one. If we want to cover your biggest regret in grip this year, was me not going to North Americans. For all the reasons you guys just named. Just the people that were there, the medley being 40 items, 2 days splitting multiple events. Yeah, it's just a killer competition, and I hope in 2 years from now, when it gets contested again, I plan on being there. For sure. Now, I just had a thought. I was trying to think of something to kind of wrap up with here. We've mostly covered everything. I would just encourage people that if they have a similar experience below for 2024, if you had somebody different for Rookie of the Year, if you had somebody else for Most Improved, write your selections down, give us your reasons. If you had a favorite contest experience this year that maybe we didn't know about, maybe you got introduced to the sport, it was your first time, and you had a good atmosphere somewhere, write down what your favorite environment and competition experience was below. So I just encourage people to try to get into the comments and give us more feedback on, who they would have picked, or different competition memories that they have from this year. Just so when we go down it, we can kind of see, what everybody else was experiencing and doing. I think that would just be cool. So that's all I would leave everybody with, is just, the more participation in the comments and stuff like that, the better. I don't make money doing the channel. It's not like we're raking in some cash doing this stuff. We're doing it for the love of the sport. So I'm not getting y'all to comment because I'm like getting some kind of kickback or something. It's because we genuinely just want to know, like, hey, what was your favorite experience? What was your favorite lift? What was your favorite feat? What's some stuff you saw? So I would just encourage people to get in the comments and just share with us, what they would have shared if they were in one of these seats talking with us. I would just like to hear what they have to say. If you guys have any other closing words, feel free. And if not, we can almost wrap that up. But yeah, whatever you got.
I would echo everything you just said. We're doing this. We decided to do this wrap-up show because we thought it would be a fun conversation. I think it was. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. If you haven't competed as much as you want to, or you haven't competed yet, make 2025 the year. There's going to be lots of contests, so hope to see you out at one of them.
All right, Jason, last words for the people. Anything?
Just get out there and compete.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what what was that, 6 years ago, Mike decided to have a contest. We didn't know anything about anything. He had met Chad Clark. He's like, why don't you guys try this Armlifting USA stuff, this contest? And okay, a month later, we're having a contest. We didn't, just get out there and try it.
Well, and you guys have been running, EOGC for what, 6 or 7 years now, maybe? And, it turned into something you guys didn't know anything about.
Yeah, 2018 was the first one.
Staple competition.
Well, we actually didn't have one this year because of Mike building that new house.
Yeah.
So I think he said we were going to try to do it in April. The one that would have been the end of this year, but
yeah. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's something that you weren't really familiar with, and you kind of just met somebody, and kind of on a whim it picks up, and next thing you know, I mean, you're hosting some of the
I
biggest,
think a
best
lot of people
competitions.
want to be at a high.
travel the
A
country.
lot of people don't want to compete until they think they're at a really high level. Some people think like that, or like, and
Yeah.
just don't worry about that. Just get out there and start.
I think that's the best approach, man. Yeah, I think that's sound advice, and because you have to start somewhere, and
And you're going to learn a
you're,
lot more by going to one anyway from people who
yeah,
you'll be ahead of the game.
yeah, man. No, and like I said, I mean, you guys started into that to where, I mean, if you probably, when you first were finding out about that and beginning to host that first competition, you and Mike back then, you probably didn't think you'd even be pulling off half the stuff you've done at this point in your grip career, Jason, right? I mean,
let alone being the athlete of the year.
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Is there a cash prize involved in this or anything? Or?
I'll buy you a Tunyon from Longhorn Steakhouse. But yeah,
Well, I like
don't
those.
know.
That's pretty good. That's all right.
That's a good deal, right? But yeah, hey, no, guys, this has really been fun for me. I think this was awesome just to kind of get down and kind of just recap everything, wrap things up, and just talk about a lot of different people and a lot of different competitions and lifts that maybe just don't get as much shine, or we wouldn't have brought up if it wasn't for doing a year wrap up. So I thought this was a great idea. I'd like to make a habit of doing this every year, just a yearly kind of a wrap up. And yeah, I think we pretty much said about everything we need to say. And yeah, I wish everybody the best, whether they're competing with themselves, lifting for certain feats, whatever your goal is with grip strength. Just wish everybody good new year going into 2025, and hope to see you at some competitions. And yeah, grip show's not going anywhere. We're going to keep putting out a lot of videos, a lot of interviews coming up, a lot of stuff happening. And yeah, I guess we'll just see everybody in 2025. So, yep, sign off with that.
Bye, everyone.
Yep.